Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell. These two players are both 24, they're both shooting guards, they're both two-time All-Stars, they are both elite scorers, and they both help lead their team to the number 1 and number 2 records in the league. They have so much in common, and they're very close in comparison. They're so close that when I first started to write up this video, I didn't really know who was better. I was watching Devin Booker in the finals while Donovan Mitchell was in Cancun. But then I thought Devin Booker had a better team around him, so I wasn't exactly sure how significant Devin Booker being in the finals was. I felt like Donovan would play a bit better, and then I just changed my mind. But I was doing research and just deeply thinking about it, I found my answer. And it isn't even close as I originally thought. In this video, I will touch on some of the points that made up my mind in determining if Devin Booker or Donovan Mitchell was the better player. These two young, talented players are pretty close in my opinion, so this should be a good one. Let's start off with Devin Booker. He's a 24-year-old shooting guard that has been looked at as a losing player up until last year. The Suns were always missing the playoffs, while Devin Booker was an amazing player. Some people would say that he was putting up empty stats or that his play didn't contribute to wins, and that was a huge reason as to why he didn't make the All-Star team before 2020, despite putting up the stats. Although he made 2 All-Star teams, he was a replacement and didn't get the initial All-Star spot. In 2020, Damian Lillard was injured, so Booker took his place, and in 2021, Anthony Davis was injured, so Devin Booker took his place once again. And in 2021, the Suns went all the way to the finals and went up 2-0 against the Bucks. Then they lost 4 straight, with the last 3 games being fairly close. But as soon as Donovan Mitchell came into the league, he had an immediate impact on the Jazz. He's never averaged under 20 points a game, and he has never missed the playoffs. Gordon Hayward was an All-Star in 2017, and then he left the team, so it was up to a rookie Donovan Mitchell to lead the Jazz to the playoffs. And he did. He led the Jazz to the playoffs his whole career, and this year, he led them to the best record in the entire league. He was an All-Star for the past 2 years, and he's also averaged more than 30 points a game in the playoffs in the past 2 years. Donovan Mitchell is also a better leader than Devin Booker, and he contributes more to team success. And I don't want to make it seem like Chris Paul is the only reason why the Suns had the second best record in the league and made it all the way to the NBA Finals. The whole Suns team stepped up and made huge improvements. But if CP3 wasn't there last year, I think they still would have been a good playoff team, but Chris Paul was a huge factor to this. Chris Paul made a big impact on how DeAndre Ayton played, and even he admitted it.
Well, I love CP, man. Like I said, that's really the only teammate that really pushed me, like big bro type push, knowing what I got and that I never thought that I had. I think he was the best thing that happened to my career. You know, I can say that every day.
Chris Paul has always made big men better. Matter of fact, he makes everyone a better player. Everywhere he went, he made it a winning culture, and that happened to Phoenix as well. But Donovan Mitchell had a much bigger role compared to Devin Booker, and was doing this as soon as he got into the league. I would lean towards Devin Booker, but there's no clear best player on the Suns. On the Jazz, there is a clear best player, and that player is Donovan Mitchell. Rudy Gobert is a great player, don't get me wrong, and he's used as the best defensive anchor in the league, but he's definitely not the go-to guy on offense, and it's pretty clear he's the second option. Mike Conley is great, but don't try to use the argument that he was an all-star. DeMar DeRozan, John Morant, and Brandon Ingram all deserve that spot more than him. The Utah Jazz are filled with winning players that fit well together, but Donovan Mitchell is the clear leader. Not to mention that the Jazz had a better record than the Suns, despite Devin Booker being surrounded by slightly better pieces. And I think the depth of these teams are pretty close, and the talent of these rosters are close too, but the only reason why I said the Suns is the better team overall is because they have 2 first options. Whenever it's crunch time, Devin Booker and Chris Paul has the ball. Booker is great at creating his own shot, and Chris Paul can create for himself too, but he will also make everyone on his team a threat. When the Jazz are in crunch time, they usually rely on Donovan Mitchell to bring them to the victory. Yes, they have great shooters, but they don't have anyone else close to Donovan Mitchell's level, so the load is just dumped onto him. And the Jazz have made the playoffs every year that D-Mitch was there, and he also steps up in the playoffs. There's actually a dramatic increase in his game. Devin Booker also got a bit better in the playoffs, but his efficiency took a slight hit, and he didn't elevate to the extent that Donovan Mitchell did. In the past 2 years, the Jazz have blown 3-1 and 2-0 leads, but I fail to see how that's Donovan Mitchell's fault. Here are stats from the last 3 losses in the Denver series in 2020, and here are stats from the last 4 losses from the Clippers series last year. You could nitpick his efficiency on some nights, but as a first option guard, that should be expected, and you're gonna have some off nights. And just look at what he was putting up. Some people don't add context like how well he played and the players that stepped up against him. As a team, the Jazz didn't play that well, and Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic played amazing in their comeback, and Paul George stepped up for the Clippers in their comeback, plus Terrence Mann had a 39-point game on them. In the blown 2-0 lead in the finals, Devin Booker played good as well. He was a little streaky though, he had back-to-back 40 games, but his other 2 games weren't that great. But when you even it out, he did play great, so I wouldn't really blame him too much either. Donovan Mitchell is 6'1", while D-Book is 6'5". But the funny thing is, besides shooting over defenders, I feel like Donovan Mitchell plays like the bigger player. They grab the same amount of rebounds, but when Donovan Mitchell is attacking the rim, he's so athletic and jumps so high that he seems like the more big and dominant player. He also makes incredible dunks, which make it seem he's just taller and stronger. Even on defense, I feel like D-Mitch plays like the bigger player. In one-on-one situations, Devin Booker is clearly taller and bigger, but when meeting people at the rim or contesting a shot, I feel like Mitchell gets there faster and just so much more athletic. None of them are elite defenders by any means, but I do feel like Donovan Mitchell is the slightly better defender. You could argue who is better on defense in one-on-one situations, but Donovan Mitchell is the better team defender. He's faster and can jump higher, which can deceive the opponent into thinking they have an open passing lane. There isn't actually anything that Devin Booker is better than Donovan Mitchell at. In almost every single category, it's pretty close, but I would lean towards D-Mitch almost every time. Donovan Mitchell leads to winning more, he's a better scorer and does it with better efficiency. Rebounding is pretty much the same. Donovan Mitchell is the better passer, Donovan Mitchell is the better defender, and unless you want to pick and choose spots, Donovan Mitchell is either the same or better than Booker in every category. Devin Booker is better in the mid-range and post, you could say that, sure, but on the other hand, Donovan Mitchell is better from deep and driving to the rim. You probably already know who I think is better at this point, because you stuck around this far into the video, but I think Donovan Mitchell is the better player. I already summed it up for the most part, but I think those saying that Devin Booker is better are adding a lot of recency bias. They're looking at how Devin Booker went to the finals and played great. He really did. But I think that's really fogging up people's minds. I just want you guys to take a step back and just evaluate the 2 players for who they are. And I'm sure a lot more people will think Donovan Mitchell is the better player if they do that. And I'm not going to shut you down if you think Devin Booker is the better player, because there is an argument, but I would say that Donovan Mitchell's argument is better. And next year, Devin Booker can prove me wrong. Who knows? But right now, at the recording of this video, I think Donovan Mitchell is the better player. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I read every single comment, so let me know what you think in the comments down below. Subscribe for future basketball content, and thank you for watching.